All right, so the story appears in this magazine, which is out of Boston. Nobody really reads the Atlantic magazine. It's owned by a woman named Lorraine Jobs, the widow of Steve Jobs, all right? Now, Lorraine Jobs is a fanatical leftist. She has donated $610,000 to the Biden campaign just in June, okay? So she owns the magazine, and she pays a guy named Jeffrey Goldberg to edit the magazine. Goldberg is a Trump hater like you've never seen. So the article is basically entitled, "Trump, Americans Who Died in War Are Losers and Suckers." That's the title of the article. Here's the pithy part, and I'm going to quote it. Trump rejected the idea of the visit to a World War I cemetery in France in 2018 because he feared his hair would become disheveled in the rain, and because he did not believe it important to honor American war dead, according to 4 people with firsthand knowledge of the discussion that day. In a conversation with senior staff members on the morning of the scheduled visit, Trump said, quote, "Why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers," unquote. In a separate conversation on the same trip, Trump referred to the more than 1,800 U.S. Marines who lost their lives at Belleau Wood as suckers for getting killed, unquote. Okay. Now, here's the truth of what happened. First of all, what does it mean, firsthand knowledge of the conversation? Does that mean the people, the 4 people that Atlantic said they talked to, and I don't doubt that they talked to people. They had to, all right? But who are these people? Firsthand knowledge, does that mean they heard it? So if you heard the conversation and you're using anonymous sources, you say sources who heard the conversation. You don't say firsthand knowledge because nobody knows what that means. That is dishonest. So that's number one. These anonymous sources are not put into any kind of context at all. We don't know whether they heard it somewhere in a restaurant or a colleague told them. We don't know anything. 4 sources with firsthand knowledge. BS. Nobody could have gotten that published unless they were working for Lorraine Jobs. Well, maybe the New York Times and Washington Post would have done it, but they would have done it in a more clever way. This is just garbage. Garbage. All right, so who was it? Who did it? Goldberg, the author of the article and editor of the magazine, in 2016 called President Trump a demagogue, a xenophobe, a sexist, a know-nothing liar. This is a real objective guy, right? Okay. In 2018, he wrote an article, said Donald Trump's mafia mindset. That's objective. Then, in 2019, Atlantic Magazine put on the cover, impeach. Okay? There it is. Impeach. So I think we know where these people are coming from. Then, another article in 19, unfit for office, Donald Trump. Donald Trump's narcissism makes it impossible for him to carry out the duties of the presidency. This is a cartoon. This is like Mad Magazine. Atlantic Magazine is like Mad Magazine. In fact, Mad Magazine is going, why didn't we think of this? Okay? Now, if somebody had done this to Joe Biden, never would have gotten out into the media. Media would have said, this is a bunch of crap. You can't write an article about 4 people with firsthand knowledge and not define them. It never would have gotten out. Maybe on the far right websites, and there are not very many of those, but it did get out. Okay, here's the kicker. John Bolton, who despises Trump and wrote a book cutting his throat, okay, said this. Go.
According to what that article said, the president made disparaging remarks about our soldiers, the people buried at the An Marne Cemetery, in connection with the decision for him not to go to the ceremony that was planned that afternoon. And that was simply false. I don't know who told the author that, but that was false. And I recounted that in my book, The Room Where It Happened, and reaffirmed that in response to questions the next day.
Bolton says it's bull. And Bolton was a national security advisor. So he's just Bolton, the guy who's just slamming Trump all day long. Pompeo likes Trump. Secretary of State says, look, I was there. I never heard anything like this. Now, if Donald Trump had actually said, these are losers the U.S. Marines killed in World War I, okay, if he had said that, it wouldn't be 2 years later that this would become forth. Everybody would have known that. And that would have gotten around real fast. But no, it comes 2 months before the election. So this doesn't stack at all.
Bill O'Reilly is back on TV and only on The First. No Spin News, every weeknight at 8 p.m. Eastern, only on The First.